What's up, guys? Back again, finally getting to this water testing situation. So like I mentioned before, I'm on a well and was very concerned about the water quality, or the water parameters, so to speak, of the water going into the aquarium. And I want water to be within those parameters necessary for a planted tank, or at least something really good to start with. And I really don't know where to go with that. So I bought all the testing materials, and I'm going to test mostly for pH, KH, and GH, general hardness. And I just want to make sure that pH is a good range to start with, the KH and GH are a decent range to start with, and everything's going to be good to go. I'm fine if things are a little bit lower, because I know they're a little easier to kind of add some things in, especially for the GH and KH, after doing a little research to kind of get those numbers up if necessary. But I really don't want to have to bring things down, and I don't want to mess with a bunch of chemicals trying to adjust water quality. I've heard that's just a headache, especially in a small aquarium. So I'm going to see which of these water options really are going to be best. So what I have are 4 different options for a small aquarium like this. The first, being on the left, would be the water from the well that goes through a softener, and it's one of those salt softener systems. So I'm not sure how that's going to be. I know it's going to remove a lot of the metals, is what I'm thinking. Just to the right of that, the second one is the RO. Just to the right of that, the third one is straight from the well, no filtration, no softening, anything like that going on. None of the reverse osmosis filtration. And then on the right is a major brand spring water. And the only reason I'm using that as an option is, for one, if all these other ones are way out of whack and I'm not going to be able to work with those, obviously I can go with the spring water. And 2, it's not going to be that expensive for me, considering the aquarium's only 6 gallons. I have a huge 5-gallon jug of spring water that I got for the hurricanes, or the hurricane when it came through, just so we'd have extra drinking water. We never got into it, so I figured, why not use it if it can be used for this. So I'm going to go ahead and test for all of these different things, pH, KH, and GH. I'm not going to bug you with every single test on all 4 of these, all 3 tests. That would just take too long. So what I'll do is 1 test for each kind, just to see if I'm doing it right. So that way, any of you guys watching that know anything about how to do these things, if I am way off base, please tell me. If I messed up, comment, point me in the right direction. I couldn't find a whole lot of information on how to do these properly. So this is really going to be my first attempt at this kind of stuff. So I'll probably start with the pH and then move my way through from there. And I'll talk you through the first pH test that I'm going to do, just for those of you that are trying to figure out how to do this too. If I'm doing it right, then here you go. It's an instructional video. If I'm doing it wrong, it's an instructional video. You'll see what not to do. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the pH on one of them. I'll probably start with the softened water and go from there and go down the line and see if the numbers all jive and look right. Alright, so according to the instructions, the directions, everything that I read, what I'm going to need to do is go ahead and add about 5 milliliters of water to one of the test tubes that came with the kit. Once I do that, I make sure it's as close to 5 milliliters as possible, which I guess is the line on the tube. It's marked clearly there. Then I'm going to add 3 drops of the pH test solution, cap the test tube, and invert the tube several times to mix the solution. Then I'm going to read the test results by comparing the color to the solution to the pH color chart. So there's a pH color chart that came on the back here, and I'm not sure how well the colors are going to come out for you guys, but I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to try to test that pH, see where we're at. My understanding is I want to be pretty close to 7 to start with. I don't know, I'd have to look that up for a planted tank. I know it varies from plant to plant, fish to fish, all that kind of stuff. But I want to see what I got there, what I'm working with, and where I can go from there. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. We're going to start with the softened water, and I'm going to do pH. So I have this little syringe just because it's a real pain to get the water. By dipping it in there, I've experienced in the past doing a different type of water test, not for aquariums, but for something similar. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get that as close to the fill line as possible. And try not to go over. I don't want it to go over too much because then it's going to dilute the mix and the colors aren't going to be right and the pH indicators are not going to be quite right. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see, pH. So pH test solution, this one here. And you notice I also put a paper towel down. Don't want to get any of these chemicals on any of the surfaces. I'm not sure what they'll do. It might not be a big deal, but it might be. I don't know. At the very least, it could stain something. Wife wouldn't be happy about that. So 3 drops. It said to completely invert the bottle to get equal drops, or as close to possible. 1, 2, 3. All right. Alright, so I'm not sure if you can see this, but it is really blue. Really blue. It is at least 7.6 or higher. So that's really high pH. I think there is another pH testing kit that would check for the high range, but at this point I think that's above what I would want. So, I don't know, with these really high numbers, it's a little nerve-wracking. It's not really something I wanted, but, you know, at least now I know. And that's softened water. So, I really don't know what that indicates. I'm not sure if it's because it goes through the softener or if it's just because it's through my well. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this tube and go ahead and do the next 3. I'm not going to put you through that because, once again, that's going to take forever. But at the end, I'll show you the results of all this stuff. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to test for is KH. I just assumed that the master test kit would have had it. I didn't really read the description. I just knew that was the one to get. That's what people said online. So I ordered it and then realized KH and GH is really important for stability of pH, and that's going to be really important for a planted aquarium. So I'm going to go ahead and do the KH. So what it says to do is fill it up till about the 5 milliliter mark again to the line, and then I'm going to add 1 drop at a time, cap it, turn it upside down a couple of times, and keep going until the water turns from, I think, yeah, turns from blue to bright yellow. And I have to count the amount of drops going in. So I'm going to do that real quick with, I guess I'll start with the RO water, the reverse osmosis water for this one. So I'm going to add about 5 milliliters. And I don't know about everyone, and people that test this stuff a lot might not have a problem, but having that syringe is a lifesaver. It easily, you know, just gets that right amount. You can withdraw the water from whatever source, so that's definitely going to be one of my favorite tools with this. So I'm going to go ahead and start with 1 drop. And it immediately turned a light blue on 1 drop. I'm not sure how well you can see the colors, but this yellow solution turned blue quickly. So that was 1 drop. 2 drops. Okay, so the second drop turned it yellow. That means the KH is pretty low. Based on this, let's see. So I got this big instruction booklet here. So 2 drops, I'm assuming, I don't know, I have to look that up here in a little bit, but I'm thinking that means 2 degrees from what I'm looking at, or I'm not sure what that symbol means here. I'm not sure if you guys can see this little chart, but it seems like 2 degrees, maybe 2 drops, that's the symbol they use. Anyway, that's 0 to 50 parts per million of KH, which is the carbonate hardness. So pretty sure that's low. I'm going to go ahead and continue doing that for the other 3 samples, and like I said again, I'll show you at the end the numbers, and maybe from there I'll be able to tell what I'm going to go with. Alright, so the next test I'm going to do is the GH, the general hardness. That once again I had to buy in the separate kit. It came in that GH/KH test kit. This one's very similar. You fill the tube with 5 milliliters of water, and then you add 1 drop at a time, inverting it each time or several times after each drop. And you want to see the color turn from orange to green and count the number of drops, and that's going to tell you where exactly on the scale it's going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and start with just the straight up well water this time. I'm just kind of going down the line here. And I'm trying to clean the tubes as best as possible in between each use. And I'm trying to use the same tube for the same test kit. I don't know if that's the best way to do it or not. I just don't want to mix the chemicals too much. So we'll see. But this one's the general hardness. I would expect that this one's going to be pretty high coming straight out of the ground. The water here in Southwest Florida is normally pretty hard. You know, it's sitting on limestone and stuff, so that's 1 drop. It's a little light. I'm assuming that's supposed to be the orange. We want to get it to green. That's 2. Just getting darker orange at this point. 4. Even darker. 5. 6. This is a very tedious process. 7. 8. 9. 10. Wow. 11. Now I know why all the homes around here have a softening system, or a water softener. Assuming that's 12, hopefully I didn't lose count. 13. Still just getting a darker orange here. No green. 14. 15. 15. If this is anything like the KH test, it's really weird. All of a sudden it'll just change. It's not real subtle. Oh, there we go. Green. So I think that was 16, maybe 17. I'll play it back and catch the exact number, but you'll see there it finally just changed green real quick. So obviously the well water, as expected, is really hard. I'm going to go through the rest of these and I'm going to go ahead and provide the results for you. That's crazy though. That seems really high. I have no idea what would live in that. Maybe like brackish fish or something. I don't know. But that seems really high. So anyway, I'm going to continue with the other water samples and we'll see what we get. Alright, so I tested all 4 samples. I tested for all 3 things at this point. And I'm going to go ahead and display the numbers at the bottom, somewhere across the bottom. But let's go ahead and start with the well. Straight up well, the pH was greater than 7.6. So it was really up there. You know, it just really high pH. I don't know, I guess I could do the high level pH, but I think at that point it doesn't really matter. You know, I don't know, maybe I should test the high, just to see where it's at. I know from what I've read anyway that it's all about pH stability more than anything. So we'll see. I guess I could always test the high on that and try to figure out, you know, what it is. But it's very alkaline, very alkaline. The KH was pretty high. We were looking at 10 drops to get the KH to where, you know, it turned the color. And that's anywhere from 100 to 200 parts per million, a little bit closer to 200 parts per million. So that's not awful. It's not that bad really, from my understanding. That's a decent range for things to be in. I really want to do invertebrates, snails and shrimp, so I don't know if that's good or not. I'll have to look up all that information and live plants and all that stuff. And the GH was pretty low. And this is all softened well, sorry. The well from the softener. And it was low. It was about 50 parts per million, give or take, which I think is good for live plants and stuff. So the well, if the pH isn't really high, maybe the softened water is good. We'll see. The RO was really low pH. It was about 6 to 6.4, somewhere in that range, from what I could tell. So it's on the lower side, a little more acidic. I think 6 is about where it bottoms out, but it was above that. The KH on the reverse osmosis water was 2 drops, and that's about 0 to 50 parts per million again. And the GH was exactly the same, about 2 drops. So that's then that 0 to 50 parts per million. I think I'm not positive, but I think shrimp and stuff need a little bit more. So we'll see. The well water, straight from the well, once again the pH was greater than 7.6. Don't know where exactly because I didn't do the high pH kit test. I guess I could do that. The carbonate hardness, the KH, was at about 14, which was really high. That's anywhere from 200 to 400 parts per million. You start talking about cichlids and brackish water. And the GH was up there, it was about 16. So once again, it's in that higher range. 14 to 16, give or take, is what I jotted down. High range. I think that's a bit high for what I want to do, especially for plants. The spring water, came in with the pH around 6.8 to 7, which seems pretty good, pretty stable. I'm not sure, once again, where invertebrates need to be when it comes to pH, but I've heard for most aquariums, stability is the key. So if the KH and GH is fairly high, then it's supposed to help prevent pH swings. The KH, the carbonate hardness, was about 6 drops, so that's on the lower end of 100 to 200 parts per million. And the GH was 7, give or take, and that falls right in that 100 to 200 parts per million. So just looking at numbers without doing any research and trying to figure out what I need, it looks like the spring water is probably going to be my best bet. Now, if I start looking and find out that the pH is too low, that acidic water, slightly acidic however, just very slightly acidic, is not going to be good for, you know, what I want to keep, then we'll start looking at the other options. Maybe I can do a mix and see how that goes and test that stuff. So either way, the next video I am hoping to have my water figured out, what I'm going to do, and then go ahead and start with some plants. If you have any suggestions, make sure to comment. Let me know, especially on types of plants that you think would look awesome in this low light, low tech aquarium, based on some of the water parameters you've heard me mention or you saw here. Hopefully this video helps some people. Make sure to continue watching all these if you think it's interesting or it's going to help. Hopefully I'm not making drastic mistakes, because no one's really providing feedback to help me with this. So you know, I'm kind of reaching out here to the YouTube community and trying to get some comments and feedback on these videos to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So with that being said, just make sure to like, subscribe, watch the videos, share them, all that good stuff. And I will see you again shortly with hopefully a scaping video.